In a world where people needlessly die of preventable illnesses, one man's vision offers hope to humankind. Order Professor Arnold Ehret's annotated, revised, and edited Mucusless Diet Healing System today.
Greetings, brothers and sisters. This is Professor Spira, and with me is Tony Bali, and for another discussion session. And today we're going to talk about, in my opinion, the most challenging aspect of the Mucusless diet, and perhaps the number one reason why people quit practicing the Mucusless diet, especially people that have long-term potential. We're talking about the social dynamics of family and friends, close loved ones, that also, the social dynamics also go into your job, how to deal with practicing the Mucusless diet and still cope with making money so that you can live in the world, and all of those things, basically social dynamics. And so Tony has had a recent experience and is willing to share some of that experience with us, and that we can kind of talk a little bit about this issue of social dynamics in the Mucusless diet. So Tony, go on ahead and give a little background of your story.
All right, greetings, Spira. I have this kind of recurring experience with my family where basically it's like these kind of arguments happen, and they always seem to come back to, or oftentimes they come back to the diet. And it's really, it's pretty uncomfortable, and a lot of times it's kind of pushed me back into mucus lean options, and that's one of the things I'm trying to work over right now. So the recent experience that I had, I was kind of talking to a family member, and we were talking about another family member, just what's going on in their life. And I made a side comment, and it often starts like this, where I make a side comment, not even thinking too much of it, and then it kind of blows up. And so what my side comment was we have this new doctor in the family whose specialty is actually the study of the cause of disease and the prevention of disease. And I made the comment that, this guy could be eating all this junk and drinking junk, and, he would get more respect in regards to health than I ever would. And we had another family member who had gotten sick on raw oysters, and the doctor's advice was drink Gatorade and take this certain medicine. And I had said, if anybody asked me or even allowed me to talk about it, I would have said oysters are not really human food, just don't eat them. Like, get past this point, eat a salad, drink some juice, whatever. Because one of the issues is when the guy got sick from the oysters, he started throwing up. So everybody was saying, oh, he's going to be dehydrated. So I would say drink some green juice, have a salad, and try to have a bowel movement, and pretty much just don't do it again. And so... But I had made the comment kind of right, exactly. And I had made the comment kind of as just a slight comment that I was just, it's one of those things that just came out where I was just like, that's kind of ridiculous. But it was also kind of funny. I was just like, that's what's going on. And it started this whole argument with my family member where they were saying things like you always make it seem like everything is a person's mistake. Like if somebody gets sick, it's their fault. And then they mentioned some people we know who have cancer, and they said, what if you told this person with cancer that it was their fault? And they were implying that that's how I am. And then they said, well, I just don't believe that everything is diet related. You know, that's a big one that I get, is people are just like, I just don't believe that everything is connected to the diet. Some things are, but some things aren't. That's what they always say. And then the other piece is they were saying that there's something that sounds like a conspiracy theory behind what you say. They were saying like, you don't trust that this doctor in our family, you don't trust that a doctor actually cares about people. And so they were saying like, you're basically like got this conspiracy thing going on. And every time I kind of stay rational to the point where I'm responding rationally, I might be getting angry, and emotionally I'm feeling hurt as well. But I often stay rational enough to make a point. I'm like, I'm not a conspiracy theorist. This is just, and I often say like, if they haven't tried a cleaner diet, how do they know that, you know, that can't help? They haven't even given it a try. So it's just this whole kind of argument that goes on, and sometimes it gets pretty nasty. And worst of all for me, it kind of makes me feel like I'm alone, you know. It makes me feel like I'm like, you know, not getting any respect. And those kind of things often drive me to eat some junk myself, because it's like, you know, I'm not, I guess I'm not dealing with some of that stuff the best, you know?
Yeah. So this is a great example of what happens to everybody. I mean, I don't know anybody that this doesn't happen to, that practices a Mucusless diet for any length of time. These social dynamics are real, and it's almost as if there's a science behind this, and I've done a lot of analysis to kind of break it down. A lot of it's based on the reaction that people have to the Mucusless diet, because because of what it is, because it's so real. And you were saying that you kind of said some things that maybe you wish you hadn't said, or you'd maybe said it in a different way, and because it did kind of create this huge tension. And the thing about the Mucusless diet is you can't be fake anymore. A lot of social interaction, daily social interaction in society, in a lot of areas, not everywhere, but a lot of areas, people are chronically fake. It's like, hey, how you doing? And it's like, oh, I'm doing good. Well, you might have just had a death in the family. You might be doing terrible, but the social convention is that you say you're doing fine, because it's just basically a greeting, and it's like there's this automatic dance that goes on with language. It's like, well, how you doing? Oh, I'm doing all right. How you doing? Oh, I'm superb. Thanks for asking. You know, it's like this kind of thing. And what the Mucusless diet does is makes you very real. Like it becomes impossible to be fake in that kind of way, that that society expects you to be. Where now somebody's like, well, how you doing? Oh man, I just been fasting, and I'm doing great. Oh man, I just got done doing enema, but I'm I got out this big old piece of slime. I mean, it's and you can talk like that, and people be like, what are you talking about? You won't even think about it. You won't even. It'll just be the most natural thing, because people, when they get in there's people that don't have anything to do with the diet or nothing, but they'll get into conversations with me and find themselves talking about things that they would never talk about with other people. Stuff they wouldn't even want to talk about with their doctor. I mean, they'll be talking about their bowel movements and their menstrual cycles and all kinds of stuff. And I'm like, because that's where I'm at. It's normal. It's natural to be real about what's going on. There's no reason to put flowers and candy coat it and that kind of thing. So basically, in your case, you got to a point where, and you were saying you were trying to transition into a more mucus-free period. And
yeah,
what happens oftentimes when we're going from the mucus eating and we're trying to get into either a fast, or we're trying to get into these better eating periods, we become emotionally fragile, where it's very easy to sort of set us off. And it seems to be, again, if you look at it from a very narrow perspective, it would seem to be sort of opposite of what you're supposed to do on the diet, because you can get very combative. You can get, and this was just based on who you are as a person, where you could get combative, you could get sad and depressed, you could get happy for no reason. I mean, basically that kind of emotional highs and lows, up and down, and that kind of thing. And when you're by yourself, and that's why whenever I'm about to get into one of those modes, I do what I call shut it down. And what I mean by shut it down is I go for a period of time where I don't really talk to people on the phone. I get off the internet. I just kind of, if I don't have any obligations that I have to do in the world, I don't do them. If it's something that I can postpone, or I'll postpone things, and basically just focus on internal, looking at, observing the emotions that come up, releasing what I can, seeing if is there anger or hatred that's built up there that I don't realize and know about. Is there any number of things, but it becomes this very internal kind of solitude period of, okay, because I know that if I'm around the wrong people or in the wrong environment in this fragile time, I can lose it. I can get real mad and get in some kind of argument with somebody. I might get in a fight if I'm pushed by the wrong person in the wrong way. And for me, it tends to go in that type of direction. Some people could get real emotional and just be crying all the time if they're in a certain kind of situation. And this is one of those examples of something that people get a taste of that, and they get terrified of the diet, because again, it gets very real. And it's like, well, how do you deal with this stuff? Now, my suggestion for people that would be scared of that is basically that sooner or later you have to deal with those emotions, because they're real and they're coming out. We've been socialized and taught to suppress our emotions in this society, especially men. We're not taught how to express ourselves emotionally, all of that kind of stuff. And so I know for me, I have, and a ton of things that I had just suppressed, I had just put down, and they come out, especially during fasting periods, during mucusless periods. All of this negative stuff that was down on at the core level starts to emerge. And so I had to develop personal systems of elimination, of emotional elimination. That's based on Mucusless Diet Healing System. It's based on vitality equals power minus obstruction. But I apply that to emotional obstruction, to the astral obstructions that some people might call it. And that becomes an analysis that I tried to bring to the table of it's all about elimination. On all of these levels, you have the physical elimination, but the physical is tied to the emotional. So you can't start eliminating all the waste out of your body and not have the emotional eliminations start to flow. And whenever you're talking to close loved ones and family members, it's like the biggest trigger in the world. It can just trigger this stuff start flowing out. And like I said, this thing gets so intense, and because of where people's mentalities are, I've seen people convince themselves that it was just so wrong for them to feel that way about their family members, or to have any inclination that they might have to emotionally separate and develop a new relationship, develop a new kind of relationship. Why? Because you become a new person. You're not the same person. You have different blood now. So you have to almost reinvent and create new, more rational, more healthy relationships with everybody in your life. And some people that might have been close in the past aren't going to be as close to you now when you're practicing the diet. People that used to give you a lot of respect and really admired you for who you were, they're not going to give you any more respect now. They don't like who you became. So you have to be so strong within yourself that you're not looking for acceptance, because you're not going to get it. You're not looking for people, friends and family to pat you on the back, tell you a good job. Now there's a small mucusless community. We'll do that. So I pat you on the back. Brother Air pat you on the back. We pat each other on the back. But in terms of close family members and stuff, the way I sort of did it in my own head was, I'm just impressed, or it's a pleasant surprise when I get that type of acknowledgement from friends and family on the diet, because I still get there's still things that I do in music and things like that I'll get respect. And even with the diet, over the years I've come to get more and more respect for it from close people in my life, but I don't look for it. I don't expect it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I hear you, man. And it's like, I always kind of go through this process where the first strong emotional elimination is anger for me. Like, but it's anger without sadness. So it's like I'll be angry, but kind of hype, and I'll really be like pushing on some things, whether it's on the diet or whether it's some other kind of activity that I'm into. I'll be pushing on it with this kind of energy, but I'll also be kind of angry, or I'll be really quick to get angry. And that's kind of the first process. And then something happens, like an argument or some kind of thing happens, and then I switch to this kind of like sad type thing. And like you were saying, man, it's like it's hard to deal with this stuff as men. It's very hard to because we're supposed to like hold face, you know what I mean? And So I get angry, and then I do something that makes me feel guilty. Whether it's one thing is like, and I think you mentioned this, is like misrepresenting something. Like, I want to be evolved. I want to be a greater human being, and then I'll do something that I'm like, I'll say to myself, you look so bad. Like, this is a bad representation of the diet. This is a bad representation of the work that I've put in. Like, you got angry with a family member, angry with a friend. You know what I mean? I might broadcast something in a negative way. And then it's kind of like, okay, now I feel like guilty, or like ashamed about my behavior. And this is just the real deal of how it goes with me, man. And it's like, so then I switch into this other mode where I'm kind of down, and I'm like, instead of thinking of all the stuff that I'm kind of championing with that angry energy, now I'm thinking about stuff that I might have like underachieved at, or things that I could think, like, you know, people don't like, you know, just various things where I can put it in a negative light about myself. And then I'm on that mode. And somewhere along the line, quiet. Hey. Yeah, I'm outside with my dog. Somewhere along the line, it's like I might get into a fast or something like that, and then I'm really able to kind of deal with it in a whole new way.
Right.
You know, but it's getting into that mode where it's like, I'm gonna face this and stop judging myself, stop, you know, being angry with myself. I'm gonna like do what I need to do on my body piece and just face my emotions, you know.
Yeah, and a lot of those emotions that you talk about, and we've talked before, and maybe sometime I'll do a video review of it, but something that helped me was something called the Sedona method. But the principles of it, you know, the principles of it are universal. I mean, it's a natural process that it's a natural process of elimination that humans go through, that basically it's almost like a mucusless diet healing system for your emotions, depending on how you use it, if you know how to use it properly. But when you talked about you go through the guilt, it's like you don't try to suppress that guilt. You let it be there, and you it's almost like you suffer with it for a moment, and you say, you know, can I allow myself to feel this? And you let it come to the surface, and then, you know, and then could I let it go? I mean, this is like these questions that you're asking yourself. Would I let it go? And when? You know, when would you let it go? Now, it's interesting because magically, somehow, these series of questions, when you say when, it'll release a little bit of that. You actually feel a little bit of that tension leave your body. And if you keep interrogating that and say, well, do I still feel guilty? And see if there's a little bit left. And you ask those questions again. Could I let it go? Would I let it go? When? And that whole time when I do it, I'm feeling that tension. It's like a tension in my stomach that's there. And I'm like, can I hold on to that tension? Can I hold it? And would I let it go? You'd be like, yes. Could I let it go? Yeah. Then when? Now. And it's all it becomes this release. And if you sit around and do that for an hour or 2 hours, because it becomes a meditation session where you're basically, and you go through all those different emotions, because as you release the guilt, the anger might start to come up, and then you feel that anger, and you go through that elimination. Then the anger gets there, and then there's sadness might come up, and it's like, because you're sad about family members and they're eating what they're eating, and you know what it's doing to them, and the sadness comes up.
Yeah.
And then and when you get to very advanced levels, you actually eliminate the good emotions. So you start to you eliminate feeling good. You be like, man, I feel kind of good about this work I did. Then it was like, could you feel it? Could you let it go? Would you let it go? When? And you release on even the good emotions, because what you get down to is the core of what it means to be human, and the way we're supposed to feel is at peace and imperturbable, unable to be angered in that way. Because see, there's a and a lot of people really don't understand this. There's a huge difference between, say, any type of interaction in the world. Because we're not, sometimes maybe it's good to be passive, sometimes it's good to be aggressive, depending on what you're doing. A lot of people always equate being aggressive with somebody with some kind of intense emotions. But a real master of themselves, or spiritual master, or anything you're gonna name like that, they can express and basically communicate on various levels that are constant in human communication. But so they could I always think of like the Jesus in the story of Jesus in the marketplace, where he's running around like telling people like, oh man, crashing everything, where they had turned the church into a marketplace, that kind of thing. Sometimes it's not about being passive. It's about saying what you mean in someone's face, like this is what's going on. The difference is your emotional center. When you say that, does it injure you emotionally? Is it get you kind of amped up and jittery, and because they like brought you up in that type of mode, or are you centered and at peace no matter what you're saying? And that is because that's been a goal of mine, to become imperturbable, where and it's not that you, and it's almost the opposite of what people would think, because people would think, well, if you're like that, then you're numb, you don't feel anything, or you don't, and that's totally not true. And that's the only people that would say that if they never experienced what I'm talking about. But there's a level where you can exist and you can communicate and be totally connected, and even more connected to what's going on around you and people and in emotional situations. However, your emotions are not altered or touched in any kind of negative way based on everybody around you. You become a true catalyst in terms of the realm of emotional centeredness. And so it takes a lot of work to get to that.
Right. And I know exactly what you mean, man, just from my meditation practice and combined with this mucusless diet thing. I know exactly what you mean. So yeah, I mean, that's something I have to work on. And it's just that's some good insight.
So I want to thank all you guys for plugging in, and I want to thank Tony for another great discussion here.
Yeah, man, I appreciate it. This is a very important discussion, man.
Yeah, man. And so I will holler at you guys later. Subscribe, share these videos with all your friends and family, and we will change this world together. Peace, love, and breath.
What if I were to tell you that what you've learned about nutrition is totally wrong, and in fact, dangerous? What if the human body was not designed to eat the kinds of foods that we have been fed since childhood? Discover the simplest and most powerful natural lifestyle secret that has changed the lives of thousands. Professor Arnold Ehret's Mucusless Diet Healing System, annotated, revised, and edited by Professor Spira, is a complete course for every person who desires to take their health into their own hands. Visit www.mucusfreelife.com/revised-mucusless-diet to get your copy right now while supplies last.